The Biden administration could offer bounties of up to $10 million to people who identify ransomware perpetrators. It's also looking at how it might hack back at the bad guys. Ari Schwartz is Managing Director of Cybersecurity Services at Venable. He's former Special Assistant to the President and Senior Director for Cybersecurity. Ari, welcome. Thanks for coming on the program. Is this a major revolution in the way that the federal government looks at and tries to fight ransomware? Or is this kind of an evolution into new things that the government hasn't done before, but that build on things that it has?
I actually think we're headed towards a revolution in this space. I mean, there's been this discussion of looking at some of the ransomware perpetrators as criminals and as terrorists in this space and treating them like terrorists. And I think that would be a true revolution.
What would make that effective, and what would make attribution effective in order to be able to pin down for sure, number one, we know these are the people who did it, and number two, we know these are the people who turned us on to them so we can reward them?
Well, I think part of it is being able to go and get the money and that's been given and get it back, or stop people from needing to pay altogether by being able to crack ransomware from the beginning, and then there's just the defensive side as well of stopping ransomware attacks by doing better defense. I think working on all three of those things at the same time, they're all areas where there has been some work before, but we've certainly seen a big move in the direction of giving much more advice in that area and a lot more support for agencies and organizations that get hit.
The terminology that you used a moment ago is interesting to me, Ari, because if we start thinking about this and dealing with it the same way that we would deal with terrorism, that implies that this is a social or cultural problem and not a technology problem, and so we're going to think about it in a social and cultural way. Am I on the right track?
I think that's exactly right. The bad guys are going to continue to move the technology around and continue to find holes in the technology in order to, but it's the technique that they're using and the fact that they're being harbored in certain states that are allowing them to stay there in those countries. So without the U.S. being able to extradite them, or bring cases against them. So I think that's where the social cultural side comes in.
How does that, what's the implication for that then in how we think about establishing defenses in the first place so the bad guys can't get in and plant the ransomware?
Well, it's part of it is that NIST just put out they have it in draft now, but it's available, where they have a really detailed set of practices that agencies can use to protect themselves. But mostly it says do all the basics that you need to do, right? It used to be that we would tell people to do 3 or 4 things specifically for ransomware, and there still are, they have, their fact sheets both at DHS and at NIST that highlight what agencies should do as the top areas to protect themselves. But really, you need to go even deeper than that at this point and do all of the major controls and then just prioritize those others.
What does this mean potentially for diplomatic efforts? Chris Painter's been on the program a number of times, who dealt with these issues during the Obama administration at the State Department from a cyber diplomacy issue. It strikes me that that will become an important element here too, because not all of these organizations are nation states. Some of them operate maybe enabled by nation states, but there are a lot of nuances here, right?
That's right. I mean, we have seen some that do seem to be tied more directly to nation states, and obviously you have to take a different type of action there. There are some that are just being harbored by where the nation state is harboring them and not allowing us to go get them. So I think there's 2 different types of diplomacy there that is needed, but both of them include trying to get allies together and work together with allies in order to put pressure onto those other countries.
I want to pull back more broadly. The Obama administration obviously dealt with cyber issues and made cyber issues a priority. The Trump administration did the same. This administration has really turbocharged its response to cyber, and some of that is because of the recommendations of the Cyberspace Solarium Commission and legislative mandates that followed, but some of it is just the administration saying, wow, this is really a big issue that's exploded. We need to deal with it. What does that say to you about what people should be thinking, both in government and in industry, about their cyber postures and about the way they interact with the federal government regarding cyber and broader tech security issues?
I mean, I think part of it is the timing that things, right as the Biden administration was coming in, and just before and right after, there was this wave of attacks that hit supply chain issues, that hit ransomware. We've seen all sorts of different types of attacks that we expected to increase, but all at the same time. And really, so I think that is why you're seeing this major push on the part of the Biden administration, including putting an announcement out that they're going to be doing a August event with CEOs around it, which I think is probably a good timing in order to move forward their policies in that way.
We have less than a minute left, Ari. What do you expect to see come out of that event as far as activity from the government and the way that they cooperate with the private sector?
Well, I think there needs to be that a kind of push that where the government is willing to step up and put its resources forward, but also from industry in order to make the kind of pledges that's needed, that they're going to be doing the defense that's necessary. Because it's not just that we always talk about how much of the critical infrastructure is in private sector hands, which is important, but it's also just some of the basic blocking and tackling that's not being done by the private sector today that needs to be put in place.
Ari Schwartz, thanks very much. As always, terrific to have you back.
Thank you.